What's up guys, today I'll be breaking down the new Dawnblade Sub-Tree Attunement of Grace, which in my opinion is the best subclass in Destiny 2, probably is Destiny's entire history. So, breaking down the perks of the subclass at first, Well of Radiance. Thrust your Dawnblade sword into the ground, the sword continuously projects powerful aura that heals and empowers nearby allies. Then we have Guiding Flame, which is the melee ability. Strike an enemy with this melee ability to inflict burn damage and empower yourself and nearby allies. Then we have Benevolent Dawn. Healing or empowering allies regenerates your grenade, melee, and rift energy. And finally we have Divine Protection. Hold E to convert your grenade into a blessing that heals allied targets and drops overshields you and your ally can pick up. Activate Divine Protection while gliding to hover in mid-air. So as you may be able to tell, this entire subclass is all about support and your abilities and your teammates' abilities or your teammates' health or damage, all that stuff. It's one of the first true support classes in Destiny 2. And I think it's more than that. I think it's truly one of the best subclasses in the entire game, and this video will show you why. So let's begin. So first, starting with your grenade ability, which is Divine Protection, you can do one of two things with this grenade. You can use it like normal, for example, use your solar grenade on ads, as you'll see here in a second, or you can charge it into an overshield for you and your allies, which then gives you an overshield for X amount of time. So right here, as you see, I can use it like a regular grenade, which sword grenades are one of the best PV grenades in the entire game, so that's what I recommend using there. Then also you can charge it like here, and then I get an overshield when I throw it at the ground and pick it up. And also what you can do is throw it far away at teammates or at a neutral location where a bunch of you guys can go and pick it up all at the same time and all get the overshield. It's not just one player. Then the overshield, as you see right here, I'm testing how long it lasts. It lasts for 8 seconds on the dot, so it is a pretty good long-lasting overshield. But how much health does the overshield actually give you? The way I'm going to test this is using this electric water on Nessus, and it took 2 ticks to get rid of my entire overshield. So now if I do the same thing without the overshield and see how many ticks it takes to kill me, so if we count how many ticks this is, we can get an estimate of how much health the overshield actually is. So it takes 13 ticks of this electric water to kill me, and the overshield took 2, so if you divide 2 by 13, the overshield is roughly, give or take, 20% more health. And that's not exact science, it's just a rough estimate. So now with the overshield and then my regular health bar, I should now take 15 ticks to die, which is true. So we can conclude Divine Protection gives you a 20% overshield that lasts for 8 seconds. If you do not have the shield taken off by those 8 seconds, it will therefore fall off automatically. Now I'm just showing off the fact that you can throw it to your teammates can throw it at you, and all that stuff. It's a very versatile ability, and the fact that you can throw it to a teammate that needs it, or you can throw it at a central location, or you can throw it at yourself. You can do a lot of things with it. There really are no limits to this ability. Moving on to the melee ability now, Guiding Flame, which is the one that empowers you and nearby allies once you get a melee hit. But you can also use it like a regular melee, like any other Dawnblade class. So once I melee something, it then catches on fire, then eventually explodes, like all the other Dawnblade melees. So for all the damage testing in this video, I'll be using this pulse rifle, which hits 182 base damage with no buffs at all. So now I'm going to go ahead and melee this guy to empower myself, and now I hit 227. So one thing I want to show off before I break down the actual percent of this buff is, as you see on the side of the screen, it lasts for 6 seconds, but 0 counts as a full second in this game, so actually 7 full seconds of a 25% buff, as you see on screen right now. That's how much more damage I hit with the melee active. And as you see, it's not only myself that empowers. As you see, my friend gets the melee on the ogre, and I'm still empowered and hit 227. So as long as I'm in the range, or my allies in the range of my melee, it empowers all of us. And another thing is, it's not a debuff, it's actually a buff, which means it's not only the enemy you melee that can take more damage. As you see, I melee the knight and then shoot the ogre, and I still get the buff on the ogre. So it's a buff to all damage to all enemies for that 7 seconds. Now one thing I found that is unfortunate is it does not appear to affect any abilities or supers in the game. As you see with the sword grenade, I was hitting 499 and 120 numbers. So I'm going to go to melee and do the same thing, and once again the numbers are the same. It did not affect any of the abilities. Now moving on to your rift abilities, which are healing and empowering like every other warlock subclass. First, with the empowering rift, put down the rift, now hit 227, which is that same 25% more damage, which means your empowering rift and also your empowering melee are the same 25%, so that's something to keep in mind going forward. Then we have the healing rift, which is your other rift ability, and once again, I'm going to use this electric water to test it, and as you see, I'm roughly healing 1 tick every time I take damage. So roughly I'm healing 7.7% of my health every 0.65 seconds. This is not exact math by any means, because you heal your regular health faster than the overshield, so it's very hard to actually tell. And I went and did this test also to kind of get an idea from almost no health to full overshield how long it takes with Healing Rift. And if you do the math based on what I just showed you, the 7.7% every 0.65 seconds, it actually almost works out here. But the main thing to take away from this is you heal your regular health much faster than the overshield health. Now moving on to the actual super ability, which is Well of Radiance, which is thrusting your Dawn Blade into the ground, gives you a continuous beam of empowerment and healing for nearby allies. So first testing the empowering part of it, hitting 182 like usual. Now with the big rift down, I hit 245, which is actually a higher percent. It is now 35%, which is 10% higher than the regular rift and the regular melee ability. So your big rift is better. Now for the healing aspect of the super, just watch this clip, that's all I gotta say. So as you saw, I survived a lot of BS in that clip, but unfortunately, this is where you draw the line. 8 Colossus in the middle of all of them shooting at the same time is where you cannot out-heal this amount of damage. So there is a limit of how much you can physically heal in the super without dying. You can die. Before moving on to the last ability of the subclass, I'm going to go ahead and test which of the 3 empowering abilities stacks. We have a Rift, we have our super, then we also have our melee, which all empower us and allies near us. And let's see what stacks between them. So first I'm going to put down my super and empowering rift and see what happens if they stack or not. So like usual, I hit 182 with neither, then putting both down. First thing I notice, I don't have empowering rift on the left side of my screen as a buff, and I still hit 245, which is the damage number of just the super. So those do not stack. Now let's do a rift and a melee, and once again, they do not stack, and I only have one buff on the side of my screen. So breaking this down, you see I put down a rift, I have the rift buff, I leave it, go get the melee buff. Then when I get back in my rift, the buff just disappears and the rift overrides the melee one, so you can only have one of those at a time. But what about super, then also melee, the last combo? This one actually works. As you see, I hit 307, which is a higher number than I've hit so far. So putting the numbers up on the screen, the super is 35%, melee is 25%, and if you multiply those together, you get 68.7% because buffs multiply in this game. Now moving on to the final ability that makes this entire subclass just pop and come to life. Benevolent Dawn, healing or empowering allies regenerates your grenade, melee, and rift energy. So as you see, when I throw a charged grenade, which is divine protection, at my teammate, I then get Benevolent Dawn on the side of my screen for 5 seconds, which then gives me half of all of my abilities back in that amount of time alone. So I can also do the melee, get Benevolent Dawn from the melee empowering my friend, and once again, get 50% of all of my abilities back, actually probably closer to like 60%. Now with the rifts, it's kind of interesting. So empowering rift gives you the buff over and over again, as long as someone's in the rift. So as you see, once the buff runs out, it just refreshes back to 5 seconds instantly, because it's constantly empowering my ally inside the rift. But healing rift is where it gets a little bit more interesting because of the fact that the healing rift eventually has a cap of how much healing it can do. So as you see, once I get in the rift, once my overshield is full, I have to leave the rift and come back to refresh the buff for the person that put it down. So if I was the one that put it down, once my teammate got full health, they would have to leave and refresh it if I wanted the buff to come back. But if you're getting shot at constantly, that's not an issue because then it would be constantly healing and it would work forever. But once you fully understand how this subclass works, you basically have 3 abilities, your grenade, melee, and rift, to then proc Benevolent Dawn, and every time you proc Benevolent Dawn, you get 50% of all of your abilities back, so you only need to proc it twice to have everything back again. And the rift can proc it multiple times, so really you have like 4 to 5 ways of proccing Benevolent Dawn, and you only need to proc it twice to have everything back. So it's very, very easy to have all of your abilities up at all times. And you can also go back and forth between like using your grenade normally or using it for overshields. And then you can use your rift for empowering, healing, whatever, and then your melee here and there. And it's very, 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 very easy to have all 3 abilities up at all times. So if you didn't think all this was already broken as is, let's throw an exotic on top. Phoenix Protocol. Basically what Phoenix Protocol does is kills and assists you make while standing in your Well of Radiance, return super energy. So before we had ways to get all 3 of our abilities back constantly, but now we have a way to get our super back constantly. So as you see, I'm going to go ahead and put down my super, I'm gonna get a kill myself, and as you see in the super energy, it goes up a big chunk. Now one of them gets a kill, and it goes up the same amount of energy. So kills by both you and people in your rift return super energy, and you only need roughly like 15-ish kills in PvE to get your super back after placing it. So now we have a way to get our super back constantly and basically have infinite super. Then on top of that, people being healed and empowered by your super gives you Benevolent Dawn, which then gives you all of your abilities back. So you basically have infinite abilities, infinite supers, infinite healing, infinite empowering. You just have everything in the subclass. There's like nothing you don't have. You have one of the best grenades in the game for PvE, solar grenades, that can be used for damage, healing, or whatever. Then you have a melee that can be up at all times, that gives you 25% more damage. Then you also have a rift up constantly that can either heal or give you 25% damage. Then you also have your super up at all times, which gives 35% damage and like the most ridiculous healing you've ever seen in your life. This subclass truly is one of the best subclasses in the history of the game, just because of how much synergy everything has about it, and also the exotic Phoenix protocol on top of it. It's actually just like straight up insane. I have like no words to describe like how good this subclass is. Do I think it's broken? It's borderline broken. Do I think they need to change it? No. I think other subclasses in the future that they make, or if they tweak previous subclasses, should have this much synergy in them. For example, Devour, I think, is another subclass that has this level of synergy. Then also the new Arc Titan with Skullfort has a pretty high synergy almost on this level too. So there are other subclasses in the game that function very similar to this, where every perk helps the next perk and whatnot. But this one is kind of like to the next level. Anyways, let me know what you think about this subclass as a whole, then also the Phoenix Protocol exotic on top of it. Anyways, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.